What's up, guys? Welcome to the Put Me In Coach podcast,
where we go beyond the headlines and deep dive everything NFL.
I'm Ian.
And I'm Andy.
Please remember to like, comment, and subscribe. Thank you so much. And Seahawks fans, let me know in the comments if you guys are feeling how I'm feeling about this, because I'm not a Seahawks fan. I have no connection really to the Pacific Northwest. I got some family up there, but it's not a place I've ever lived. It's not a team I've ever been a fan of, per se. Not anti-Seahawks, obviously. I've never been into the Seahawks. As an outsider, it feels like this team has really been forgotten, and the coach isn't being discussed, and I'm just not seeing a lot of information from the mainstream about where people have this team ranked. But you went and hired Mike MacDonald from Baltimore. He's Baltimore's DC last year, and I was telling you this, and I'm gonna put it on record. I feel like defensively, we are seeing the guy who is what Kyle and Sean McVay and Matt LaFleur were offensively a few years ago, which is to say, we are seeing the real young hotshot pioneer of the future of NFL defense.
Mm-hmm.
It's a bold claim, but I'm willing to stand on it. I actually think that he's that guy. I really do.
Yeah. No, I think he totally is.
Mm-hmm.
When you look at, and I won't steal your thunder too much here, but when you do look at the systems he's implemented, going back to the Ravens, and then jumping over to Michigan and leading that defense and kind of being the driving force that led that defense past Ohio State, and it was the that hump that they couldn't get over for so long, and then going back to the Ravens, and I mean, we all watched it last year. I mean, the Ravens had the best defense in the league. They were unbelievable, through and through unbelievable, and I wouldn't. If you look at that Baltimore defense, there's not a ton of crazy names on there, right? You had Roquan Smith. He's really good. He's probably the best, honestly. And then you had Patrick Queen last year, who I think was playing above his pay grade, to be honest. I think he was Mike MacDonald was getting the best out of him.
Mm-hmm.
I won't be shocked if there's a bit of a regression in Pittsburgh this year.
Yeah,
and then you have guys like Kyle Hamilton, who are obviously was an All-Pro last year, but he's a second-year player. He's not some crazy seasoned vet. And outside of that, you got a bunch of dudes, just guys.
Yeah.
There's nobody crazy coming off the edge there. There's nobody crazy on the interior D. But they were an unbelievable defense. I mean, look at what they did to our Lions. They whooped them up and down that field for an hour straight.
Completely took our lunch money. And I'm glad that you brought up kind of the diversity here, because I think the first thing when looking at Mike MacDonald and what he really does, it's a gap scheme over formation scheme. So these players learn the gap scheme and then they plug into all these formations. So these young players aren't learning this, girthy playbook of, dozens and dozens of formations and plays. They're learning their assignments that translate to different formations, which does two things. Mm-hmm. It allows these teams to catch up to speed quickly, these young players, which is why it worked in college at the collegiate level, and why it's going to work, in my opinion, year one in Seattle. It allows them to catch up quickly, but it also confuses offenses during prep, because when you're looking for all of these tells and you're looking for all of these signs with these offenses, you're not able to keep up because, well, they do this formation, they're going to do this. Well, not necessarily. It's just a matter of what that individual player is doing in terms of his actual assignment in that particular gap scheme. So, it makes it really easy to break down. And he's one of those coaches that, for me, what's really cool is that when things cross stream for us, where we get a coach or a player that's come from University of Michigan, because I grew up in Ann Arbor. I bleed maize and blue. I'm a biased Wolverine fan. There's a lot of coordinators that get plucked from college that I might not know everything about, or I might not feel totally secure saying this is my stance on this guy. Right? He worked for Saban. Well, was it this guy or was it Saban? This is a guy that I can truly say saved Michigan football. If there's any Michigan fans watching this, the mainstream narrative on Jim Harbaugh has pivoted greatly in the last few years. Since we started beating Ohio State and we won a national championship. And Jim really did build a great culture at Michigan, but we lost Jim's first 5 seasons, we did not beat Ohio State, we didn't make the playoff, and we didn't win the Big Ten. And people totally forget about that because of how good they've been the last 3 years, and particularly last year winning the national championship. But Mike MacDonald completely saved. I mean, Jim had to call John and call in a favor and send up that bad signal. And I would say John gave Jim the favoriest of favors, so to speak, by giving him this dude.
He did.
And you saw, right? Within less than one season, within an off season, we had an NFL defense playing on Saturdays. And at one point a couple of years ago, Ohio State had C.J. Stroud at quarterback, Jackson Smith and Jigba in the slot, and Chris Olave and Garrett Wilson on the outside. And they couldn't really cook against us.
No.
That's a real
J.K.
lineup
Dobbins
that existed.
was the running back, wasn't he?
I think that was before. I think
was
Dobbins
that
was in the
before?
league at that point. But it doesn't really matter, does it? I mean, like when
No,
you
it
think
doesn't.
about that lineup from like a talent perspective, you're like, wow. And we definitely did not have the talent defensively. We had talent, but not on that level to like shut those guys down. But it's because we're watching the birth of something. And the one knock that I'm seeing against, that I'm seeing kind of the media or anybody sort of talking about it is, well, we don't know that he can build a culture. And my only pushback is he learned from 2 of the best culture builders we have in this game right now. One guy's weird. The other guy seems pretty normal and well-adjusted. Take a little bit of both, put it into a cosmic gumbo, and there's your culture. I think that he can build a culture very quickly based on who he's learned from. And in terms of the scheme, in terms of the design, I think he's there. I understand the hesitancy with hiring a defensive head coach in today's NFL, but they also brought in Ryan Grubb from University of Washington, which, I want to pass it over to you to talk about, but I think it's really important that those guys come in together to establish something.
100%. I think it's excuse me. I think it's such a like injection of fresh air into what is objectively a very cool football city, a cool fan base.